Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today's word of the day is hobbit.
Hobbit.
A member of a fictional, peaceful, and friendly race of small, human-like creatures that dwell underground.
Okay.
And, we've got this short piece of writing today that connects this idea of a simple, hobbit-like existence to something we all experience: strangers.
Interesting.
Yeah. So today we're going to try and figure out what's the connection between the way we experience strangers
Right.
and the idea of a simple life.
Mm.
Might seem like a weird pairing, but, stick with us. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. The text actually starts by asking, what does it truly mean to live a simple life?
Right.
And when you hear that,
Yeah.
what comes to mind for you?
Yeah. I mean, is it about fewer possessions?
Right.
Less complicated relationships? I mean, what does it mean to you?
Right. And then the piece immediately shifts to this idea of strangers and how they just kind of pass through our thoughts.
Yeah. It's like, every day all these unknown people enter our awareness.
Right.
Right. They trigger a quick emotion and then they just fade away.
Yeah. And it's that fleeting nature the text suggests that, actually gives us a benefit when we interact with strangers because they don't know us deeply. Mm-hmm. We don't tend to dwell on what they do.
That's a really good point. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah. Think about it like a harsh word from a friend, that can stick with you for hours.
Oh, yeah.
But a stranger says something similar.
Right.
You just kind of let it go.
It's almost like there's a built-in buffer.
Yeah.
Like there's less potential for it to become this big, huge, dramatic thing.
Right. Less trauma. Exactly.
And you know what else the author points out? Is even though we are going to have misunderstandings with strangers because we don't know each other. Right. Because there's no ill will. Yeah. There's usually, you just kind of figure it out and you move on.
You navigate it, you shrug it off. It's like water off a duck's back.
Exactly.
And what I find really fascinating is, we have this agency, this ability to choose how we respond.
Yeah.
Even if a stranger is trying to provoke a reaction because they don't know us, because they don't know our vulnerabilities.
Right.
Their attempts often just fall flat.
Unless we let them.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think that's where I'm starting to make a connection to the Hobbits.
Interesting.
We think about Hobbits in their little homes.
Yeah.
Away from the big conflicts.
Right.
Enjoying their simple pleasures.
Right.
And this kind of unemotional way we interact with strangers.
Right.
Do you think that's connected to this idea of a peaceful existence?
It's a fascinating parallel, right?
Yeah.
Like if you zoom out and look at the big picture, these brief, almost emotionless interactions we have with strangers could be seen as a way of keeping things simple.
Like a microcosm of that lifestyle. Exactly. They come in, they leave, they don't really disturb our inner world.
Right.
Just like a hobbit's preference for a peaceful, quiet life.
It's interesting to think about this because this comes from J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, wow.
Who created The Hobbit.
Of course, yeah.
And the piece even starts with that famous line.
Yeah.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
Right. So he was definitely thinking about this idea.
Yeah. So what do you think? Could we be more like hobbits by adopting this stranger mindset?
That's a great question.
If we don't let all those little daily interactions bother us,
right,
could we maybe find a little more inner peace?
It's like adopting that hobbit-like detachment, even though we live in this really complex, hectic world.
So essentially what we're getting from this piece is because we don't have this shared history or expectations with strangers, there's just less emotional baggage.
Right.
It's easier to resolve conflict. And maybe that's part of what makes a simple life so appealing.
Exactly. Like the ideal life we imagine for a hobbit.
And so as you go about your day, think about it, Can you approach those little interactions with a little bit more of that stranger mindset? Could that help you free up some mental and emotional space?
That's something to think about.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for the deep dive today.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.